You expect me to talk, Gold Trump? No, America, I expect you to die. That's one of my favorite James Bond movies, and look, no James Bond plot could ever come close to touching the beauty of a tale that is unfolding in the alleged Dimension Chief's brain. So let me ask you a question. What is worse than a president who thinks that the United States Army has been quietly stealing gold out of Fort Knox? The answer is a president who thinks that the United States Army has been quietly stealing gold out of Fort Knox, and then about a year later, forgets that he ever thought of it. Mr. President, I expect you to remember. But he doesn't. So look, Sharyl Attkisson, who's not exactly a hostile interviewer, sits down with Donald Trump on Full Measure. It's Sinclair Broadcasting's right-wing political show that it forces their local channels to carry. And it featured friendly, viewer-submitted questions. And one of them is, quote, "What happened to the audit of Fort Knox?" End quote. To me, that sounds like a perfectly reasonable question, especially since Donald Trump spent the early part of his second term loudly insisting that he was going to personally march to Kentucky with Elon Musk and knock on the world's thickest door and check the gold. So Attkisson asks, what happened to that audit? And President Big Mac Trump, the man who 3 weeks earlier claimed that his doctor told him he was the first person ever to score perfect on a cognitive test, he pauses. He stares off into the distance and answers, "Which one are you talking about?"
A couple of quick hits viewer questions. What happened to the audit of Fort Knox?
Which one are you talking about?
Which one? Which one are you talking about? As if the United States has multiple Fort Knoxes. As if there's like a backup Fort Knox somewhere in Boca. There's only one, just one. It is the only one, you know, the one with all the gold. And you spent half of February of last year promising to crack it open, presumably live and on camera, alongside the world's richest man, like it was that Geraldo Al Capone safe thing. And now, 14, 15 months later, you have to ask, which one? Attkisson, to her credit, gently reminds him, saying, you and Elon Musk talked about auditing the gold to make sure it was there. And then you can see the lights flicker back on in Trump's brain, and Trump goes, oh yeah, that one. Sure, we wanted to go knock on the door. Fort Knox. Very thick door. And then he says, quote, I wonder if they left the gold in Fort Knox because they steal a lot.
I think when you first got into office, you and Elon Musk talked about auditing the
Well,
gold
we wanted
to make
to
sure
go
it's
knock
there.
on the door, Fort Knox, very thick door, and to see whether or not we have any gold in there, you know, because we'll take a look at it. It's a very interesting question, yeah. We played with that. I wonder if they left the gold in Fort Knox because they steal a lot.
They steal a lot. And by the way, who's the they? Well, in Trump's smooth brain, the they in this sentence is the United States Army. Fort Knox is a U.S. Army installation, and the gold is guarded by American soldiers. And they're under the command of the totally reasonable and totally trustworthy Pete Hegseth. So yeah, the President of the United States on national TV just casually refloated the theory that our American servicemen and women are pocketing bricks of gold and walking out of the most secure vault on the planet Earth like it's the corner grocery store. Tons of it, per Trump. Tons of gold just walking out the door with our troops. And then Attkisson, again, very gently, like she's talking to her granddad after he accidentally put orange juice in the cereal, asks, no need to really do that, though. And Trump follows up with, well, I do not know. I do want to go to Fort Knox sometime. I want to see if the gold is there, which I'm sure it will be.
No need to really do that, though?
Well, I don't know. I think it's, I do want to go to Fort Knox sometime. I want to see if the gold is there, which I'm sure it will be.
Which I'm sure it will be. I mean, this guy right now, in one paragraph, one thought, accused the army of stealing tons of gold, then immediately said that he's sure that the gold is fine. It's almost like he's now stacking two almost coherent thoughts on top of each other, dressing them in a trench coat, and told them to act like real brain activity. And look, if you want reality now, Fort Knox does hold about 147 million ounces of gold. That's roughly $700 billion at market. The Treasury Secretary, Trump's own guy, Scott Bessent, said last year on the record, all of the gold's there. The Mint posts audit numbers. Those audit numbers haven't changed in decades. The only times anyone has ever taken gold out are the tiny purity samples for the audit itself. And now you've got the president, the man, swearing that he's going to secure the elections in November, and he can't 14 months later remember which fake gold heist conspiracy theory he himself barfed into the media. But hey, thank God he aced that cognitive test 3 times. It is scary, absolutely scary, to see this 79-year-old whose brain is actively trying to reject him. And as always, his own party, every Republican in Washington, has decided that the smartest move is to pretend they don't see it, to pretend that he's just fine, to pretend that when the leader of the free world starts a conspiracy theory that our military is stealing from Fort Knox, and he can't even finish it, they'll just say that what we just watched is pure vigor from our president. That man works harder than anyone. Right. Look, do me a favor, subscribe so I can keep yelling about this because somebody has to. The doctors, they're not going to yell about it. The cabinet isn't going to yell about it. And the press, mostly, is too busy fact-checking the last lie to even notice that he can't remember telling the first one.